what we're going to do, you see from the title, we're going to do swatches against Hourglass face palettes. This one is Tiger and Snake palette. And there were, oh, so satisfying. A lot of people passed on it, and I almost did too, but then I'm like, I want it, I'm going to get it. I really still enjoy Elephant, and I usually use Elephant in conjunction with Tiger because they do different things, and it gives me more blush options and highlighter options. This is Elephant here, this is Tiger. So I usually use these two together. And everything in both of these palettes work for me. Granted, look at my complexion. If you're deeper than me, it can work. I've seen people use Tiger and love it, and it works. The thing with these face palettes is you have to, not have to, but even if it says it's one thing, like this and Tiger palette, this says it's a finishing powder, which means it's for someone deeper than me to finish their face. I use either dim light or radiant light. And actually, let me show you those two while we're here. This is dim light. I use this as a finishing powder. They say this is a finishing powder. And today I have one as a finishing powder. It's Radiant Light, which is in Snake, but I don't mind it because I really love it. This is Radiant Light finishing powder. They say this is a finishing powder. I use this as a bronzer. And so I'm just showing you this to say, yes, they need to be more inclusive. No, they don't seem to know what the color spectrum is, even though they have foundations for deeper skin. So I just don't really understand that, how you can do darker foundations but not, you know, deeper face products. But what my point is finding a way, how will each product work for you? And they're too expensive to get it and only use two. And I have seen somebody, I forget whose channel it was, they just took a brush and like swiped everything and put it on as a blush. And I'm like, girl, do what you need to do. And so for me, it's just finding what each one works for me and not just using it for what it says. Because for me, this is not a finishing powder. For me, this is a bronzer. We're going to swatch it. I feel like I'm sweating, so that may be a good thing. So again, this is Elephant. We're not going to swatch Elephant at all. We're going to swatch Tiger against Snake. So we're going to put Elephant away. And I went back and forth about Snake because looking at swatches, some of the shades do look similar. But I know everything, this is Tiger. Everything in Tiger works for me. So I really felt like everything in Snake is going to work for me too, for one thing or another. This is Snake. Haven't touched it at all. This is Radiant Light. Let me make sure. Yeah, this is Radiant Light. The compact that I showed you, the second one that I use as a finishing powder. I do not mind having this in here because then I can just use this if I'm using this palette or if I'm using this in conjunction with Elephant versus carrying the single compact. And let me back up to Elephant really quick. Elephant does have dim light in it. That's this one. And I liked it so much. That's when I got the single compact, because if I'm going to finish my entire face, I need a bigger brush because I got a big face. And as you can see, these pans are small. The brushes that work the best for me is the Fenty number 125 face brush because it fits right in the pan, whether this way or if you're putting it straight. You don't have to worry about, well, I don't have to worry about it touching anything in here. I don't know if it's a good idea or not, but we're going to do swatches using sponge tip applicators because I'm going to do them on my face. And so just to hold these up in comparison, actually they do kind of stick together. This here at the bottom is Tiger. This at the top is Snake. And this is supposed to be a bronzer. And this says Solar Bronze. And surprisingly, people were saying the bronzer in Tiger is darker. But again, this is a finishing powder, not a bronzer. So, but again, people my complexion are using it as a bronzer. So this is what it looks like in comparison. And looking at them, they do look different. Tiger looks more orangey, where Snake looks more, what's the word, pinkish. But shades like this one with the swirl, this shows up pinkish. And this one I actually use as a blush. And believe it or not, this one I use as a highlighter. Did I say that right? Yeah. This one I use as a blush light. So I'll put this on as a blush, put this on the top edge, and then I'll use this one as a highlight and put like right here. So even though this looks like it's darker than this one, this is darker. This shows up darker on me than it looks in the pan. It shows up more of the rosy, and this is, you know, just a blush light. This was too light for me, like as a blush, which looking in the pan is like, are you serious? But, and this one I use as a blush, and this one I use as a highlight, this one as a bronzer. So everything in here I use and it works for me. And so I'm confident that Snake will as well. And even if these colors are similar, I'm okay with that. And I did use points, discounts, and all of that, and you may have seen that video. I also purchased the brush. I'm going to talk about the brush first because I don't recommend the brush. And my eye is tearing. I don't recommend the brush. It's not soft. I only use synthetic brushes because my face does not like natural hair brushes. But I have some really soft and really nice synthetic brushes. This is not soft. And I did wash it. Maybe I need to put some conditioner on it as well. I just use like regular shampoo or gentle baby shampoo. If it's something that'll stain, I'll use Dawn dish detergent. And I have not had any problems with any of my brushes, but this one I washed it and it is hard. This part right here feels synthetic. It feels softer once you get up here, but still this is not soft. And when, you know, I'm doing this, it's like, it's okay, but it's not a soft brush. And listen, I do believe this is hollow aluminum. Like, you hear this? Full price, this is $50 something. I paid $39 for it because there was a code and points and something else. And I have eyeshadow brushes that I've spent like $30 something for. So it's not unheard of for me to spend, you know, $30 something for a brush, let alone a face brush. But listen, this is very cheap. So being cheap, it looks really nice though, but being cheap and not being soft, and what I don't understand is why would you promote this brush with the Snake packaging and it doesn't even fit in the pan? Unless you're going to, even if you try to put the tip in it, it's like, what? It's too big for this. So I think they should have made a smaller brush head, or maybe even a retractable brush, because this is too big to fit in here. And initially I'm like, oh, you know, I want to get the brush to go with the palette. And I was watching Michelle's video and she was just like, she actually pinched like her bristles to get it to fit. And I'm like, oh, hell no. I'm like, I'm not doing it. But then I thought, you know what? Because I use bigger brushes for the single compacts. This is Radiant Light that I do have one already. So we're going to put more of this on, which may not be a good idea since we're going to do swatches. But anyway, so I thought I can still use this because this will fit in here. But look at this. You know what I'm saying? This does not fit in the palette. So I'm like, why would they, you know, put out this big ass brush that doesn't even fit in the palette that they're promoting it with? So that to me didn't make sense. And this is not a soft brush. And so much so, I would lose my points. Well, I wouldn't earn my points back if I returned it. But I am seriously thinking of returning it. But it's smaller than my other powder brushes that I use for this. These are my other ones. So if I wanted to travel, like this would be a good size. And I was just shocked at how cheap it feels, that it's hollow and that it's not soft. Like, this is not comfortable for me. And I do have sensitive skin, and I am sensitive to touch and texture and all of that stuff. But I don't recommend the brush. If you can get it for like 50% off and you just want it because of the aesthetic and you have the Snake compact, then yeah, go for it. But know that this palette, this brush is not going to fit in these pans either. But if you have a single compact and you just want to have the brush like I did, you know, then just go for it, because they do look cute together. But yeah, I think I said $39 for it. But even with that, I'm thinking like, do I want to return it? Because having it, I will use it. But I'm like, if it was one of those things where I could have tried it before I bought it, I probably still would have bought it. I ain't gonna lie. So we're gonna use sponge tip applicators. I'm pulling out probably too many, and we're gonna go into Tiger palette first. And I am gonna try to make sure I do wide swatches. And I don't know as far as comparisons. And so we have 6. I just stuck my finger in it. So we have 6. So maybe top 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the bottom do Snake if I can get them all even enough. So again, this is Tiger, this is Snake. So they do look different. The highlighters look the same, but we're going to see. And because this one does show up rosy on me, we're going to see how similar it is to these. Because I saw some people, it did look the same, but then I'm like, it might be nuanced as far as undertone, whatever. And people are saying, you know, this is more coppery, this is more rosy, blah, blah. But we're going to see. So we're just going to get into it. I'm holding it this way so I can read the numbers correctly. This is a finishing powder, Transcendent Light, that I use as a finishing powder. I mean, that I use as a bronzer. And so I'm just swirling. And we're going to put this right here. And I'm going to try and go wide. Keep in mind I have on foundation, primer, setting powder, finishing powder. So this is the finishing powder from Tiger that I use as a bronzer. And this is supposed to be for like deeper skin tones. They lie. I don't think they do it intentionally. This shade is Metallic Strobe Powder Brilliant Glow Strobe Light. This one, and I use this as a highlighter. And so we're just swirling. I'm trying to keep the glare away from you. And I'm trying to do wide swatches, but we got 4 more to do. But I do want to get Snake down here just so we can kind of see. This one, number 3, is Metallic Strobe. No, I'm looking. Wait a minute. This one here is number 2, Brilliant Glow Strobe Light. So that's this one as a highlighter. Number 3 is a blush, it says, and it's Burnished Glow. And I do use this one as a blush. So we're swirling. There is like no kick up. I really like this formula. So this is this one. This is pretty. That's Burnished Glow. That is pretty. Number 4, that's the one, Divine Strobe Light. And I do use this as a highlighter. And so again, we're swirling. And I am using a clean side for each shadow. And so this is this one. I should have did this in the first place to get them all on, because we got 2 more to go. And so if you want to be nuanced, this is a little brighter and more gold and yellow than this highlighter here. So it just depends on what type of look you want for that day. And now we're going to go into number 5, Copper Flash Strobe Light. This is the one that I use as a blush light. And so we're swirling. There is like no kick up. I'm going to run out of space. This one I use as a blush light. I should have started this way over there. So that is that shade. Shit. Running out of space. And number 6 is Iridescent Rose. So that is this one down here. So we're going to swatch this. Do I want to just put that... running out of space. Put it in my hairline. So that's Iridescent Rose, and it actually does show up rose. And so it's ironic that when I wear this, I'll use this as a blush and this as a blush light. And it just kind of works for some weird reason, because looking at them next to each other, it's just like, what? But for some reason, that's what it looked like on me. So that is Tiger palette. And it all works for me. I like how these two are orangey, coppery, and that's what people were saying made it so different from Snake. So we're going to go into Snake, and I'm going to hold it in a way where I can hopefully not confuse myself. So number 1, Radiant Light, which I have in the compact, which is what I use the brush for. So we're swirling, and we're going to just put this way over here. So even though this looks like this, you see how it looks on my complexion, and I use the fluffy brush. So I am just blending this out. And I also like this for under eye as well, because it is radiant, it does camouflage some of my under eye discoloration. But that's Radiant Light right there. The one next to it, number 2, in the middle at the top, Coral Haze, this shade right here. So we're going to take that, and we're just going to put that right here because I'm going to run out of space. The colors do seem to be what it is, coral haze, but I kind of take that back because that looks a little rosy. So that's that one, and that's this one, and it has a swirl in it. So when you see swirls, know that you're not going to see the swirls. It's going to show up as one color. So that's that one. And looking at Tiger, this does not look like either one of those yet. We're not done yet though, so we're going to see. This one, number 3, is Infinite Strobe Light. So this says it's a highlighter. This is my first time even touching anything into this palette. So thank you for being here to do this with me. So this is a strobe light, which is a highlighter. And I will say this also. My forehead is a different undertone than my cheek area. So it may look a little different on my cheeks, and also it'll be blended out and I won't be just packing it for you to see it. But looking at it like this, it looks most similar to this one. And so maybe I'll swatch those two later. So this way you have that golden kind of shine, and this one you do too. But because it's a highlighter, because I like it, like I will use it. Like I don't have a problem with that. Number 4, this is a blush and it says Sunbeam. So we're going to see what Sunbeam looks like. And so we're just swirling. This formula, y'all, I just love it. I didn't buy Hourglass powders for the longest time because I was pissed off that they weren't inclusive, and I messed around and tried it. Now I got Elephant, Tiger, 2 single compact finishing powders. And now this one. So that is that, and it's really not looking, this angle right here, it looks similar to this one. But when you look straight, it doesn't. It looks more pale. So it is nuanced. For some people, it is too close. Even this one and that one too close. They're like, for the price, you need to be completely different. And I do understand that. And then on the cheeks, though, is it going to look the same as well? So that's another thing to consider. So we're going to go into number 5. This one here, which is also a blush, which is Mystic Flush. I will say for Snake, the only repeat shade is Radiant Light, which again, I don't mind because I love it for under eye and for setting. Well, for finishing my face, and so I was really seriously okay with that. And because I only have Elephant, Tiger, and now this one, I'm not going to get a lot of repeats. Like people who buy like every collection has a lot of repeats. I'm like, I'm not doing that. So this is Mystic Flush. This is number 5, and it says it's a blush. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to swirl, and this looks like it's going to be bold. So that's that. And so looking at Tiger, it doesn't look like anything in the Tiger palette. In comparison to this is making this look kind of lavenderish. Whereas this is like a rosy. This is like a light rose. At an angle, these two look the same, that coppery tone. This is a deeper, well, shinier coppery tone. So we got one more. This one down here, number 6, says it's a bronzer, Solar Bronze, it says. Now keep in mind, this is a finishing powder. I use it as a bronzer though, because people were saying, oh, the bronzer in Tiger is deeper. This is a finishing powder, not a bronzer. But either way, it should be deeper. And I have heard that this bronzer was lighter than the bronzer in Tiger, which is a finishing powder. And that's a shame, because check this out. If you can make a finishing powder that some people, my complexion or lighter, can use as a bronzer, why can't you just make a bronzer that's deeper than this? And because this is pulling kind of cool tone on me, I may use this as a contour. The bronzer in Elephant pulls cool on me, and I use that as a contour, and then I'll use the finishing powder from Tiger as my bronzer. But if you can do a finishing powder that dark, that tells me you can formulate shades for deeper complexions. You see what I'm saying? So I really just don't understand it, even from a marketing standpoint. Like, if we know that Hourglass can do darker tones, and even if they just want to say finishing powder, we're learning that we can just use whatever it is for whatever works for us. But if they can make this and it's a bronzer for me, they can make a bronzer that will actually bronze. you know what I'm saying? I know I'm getting kind of agitated. So this is everything in both of these palettes. So the top row is Tiger, and the bottom row is Snake. And for me, on my forehead, they're different. The two closest are these two orangey tones. And I believe 1, 2, 3. So that's this one and 1, 2, 3. That cannot be right. 4, because this is Radiant Light. So 1, 2, 3, this shade. And 1, 2, 3, 4, this shade. So these two right here. That's these two right here. Those are the closest. Right here, don't look up my nose. They look similar, but when you look straight, they don't. The one from Tiger is more punchy, is more bold, is more coppery, but still it could be close, too close for some people. And this one and that one, 1, 2, 3, that's this shade right here in the corner. 1, 2, 3, the bottom row. Top row, this shade is that one. This shade right here is this one in this corner. So let's see. So that's these two shades. So we have these two that look similar at an angle. Right here it doesn't, but up here it does. And these two look similar. Because I know Snake is going to work for me as well as Tiger does, I am okay with this. And I may use this in conjunction with Elephant the same way I use Elephant in conjunction with Tiger. So I am glad that I have it. I love the formula. I don't have any issues with performance or skin irritation or any of that type stuff. But it's not as close on my forehead as swatches I've seen. And again, this is Radiant Light over here that I use as a finishing powder. So I'm excited to use it on my face, like as, you know, a cheek situation, and just see what it looks like. And so you have to judge for yourself, like, is it too close for you? Keep in mind, these are not blended out. I wouldn't just put a patch, you know, on my cheek. I do not, however, recommend this brush. And I'm really like, am I going to keep it or send this joker back? I don't know. So I'm going to think on that. Anyway, so that is it. Let me know what you think about this. And do keep in mind, we use sponge tips, which holds the powder, and you see how it went on. I didn't put on a lot of pressure or anything like that. And if you're using it for your cheeks, you're going to be using a brush. So keep that in mind. So that may affect how it looks. But just looking at just the swatches, there are no dupes. This is close, but this is a little dull compared to this one. But nothing else is duped. And I may use this as a contour from Snake, the bronzer from Snake as a contour, and use the finishing powder from Tiger as a bronzer. So I may use these two palettes in conjunction with each other. But I like Elephant because Dim Light I use for setting powder sometimes too. And Soft Light is in here. This I use for my under eye. So this is really like a full face. Under eye, blush, highlight, contour, finishing powder. So this really is a complete face palette for me. And even Tiger can be minus a finishing powder. And so I'm happy to have it. I'm excited to have Snake because it does have Radiant Light, which I use for under eye and finishing powder. And so I do have from in here blush, highlight, I'm going to call this a contour, and a finishing powder. So this is a full face palette for me. Keep in mind, you see my complexion. So, and I have seen people deeper than me wear this, and it's just, as I said, finding what you like wear on your skin. Because for some people, this is a finishing powder. You know what I mean? As far as highlighters and blush, that's, you know, depending on your complexion, it may show up. And I've seen people darker than me wear this palette and it look really nice. But you have to just judge for yourself. Like, do you want to put in the effort to see where can I put this and where is it going to look right? You know what I'm saying? And so that may take the joy out of it, especially it being an expensive palette. If you say you're a blush, show up as a blush. If you say you're a bronzer, show up as a bronzer. You know what I'm saying? If you say you're a finishing powder, if I'm deep skin tone, that's not a finishing powder for me. Maybe. But then it's a bronzer for me. So there's a lot to think about with these. And I'm not saying go out and get it. I'm just saying this is my thought process in getting it. And also my irritation at them not being inclusive, and us as melanated people having to figure out how to make a product work for us versus you say it's a bronzer, bronze. You say it's the finishing powder, finish my face. You say you're a blush, show up on my skin. You know what I mean? I'm getting off my soapbox. Thank you for being here. Let me know your thoughts. If you have snake, if you have tiger, if you have elephant, if you have any of the single compacts that you use for every reason. These two are finishing powders, but they have, you know, the blushes and highlighters and stuff as singles, which I didn't get because I have enough of that between elephant, tiger, and now snake. But let me know your thoughts on that. If you have any of these Hourglass powders, let me know if you passed on it. And I completely understand if you passed on it and you're deeper than me, or even if you're my complexion and you're just pissed off because it's not inclusive. Because as I said, for years, I didn't buy any Hourglass powders because I'm like, this is just freaking ridiculous this time and age not to be inclusive. I'm getting off my soapbox again, and I'm going to go before I jump back on it. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you for being here, testing this out with me. This was exciting for me because I had been really excited to do the swatches just to really see if they're the same, and they're not the same. Up here, I'm gonna go. My new subscribers, thank you. I appreciate you. I see you. I'm glad you're here. Lots of links below. I do have an Hourglass Cosmetics playlist if you want to see what other stuff I've done or how I've used Elephant with the Tiger palette. Yeah, so lots of stuff down below. I have lots of playlists. Everything is labeled according to brand. You can easily find what you're looking for. And feel free to like, share, comment, join if you want to. If you're not subscribed, please do. I appreciate it. And as always, self-acceptance, self-love. That is the Crazy Troll Nation way. Thank you, and you will see me soon.